is joining us. Recording in progress. Thank you, Isabel. We're very happy to introduce Hendrik. He is a professor of educational technologies and learning analytics, and actually affiliated with two institutes. The first is the German Leibniz Institute for International Educational Research, and he's also affiliated with the Open University of the Netherlands. And he has written extensively about learning analytics, including a very well-cited overarching framework of learning analytics. He has also written about recommender systems, about trusted analytics. The list goes on. He has also co-chaired last year's LAC conference, which was a huge success. And today, Hendrik will share his insights regarding the introduction and implementation of learning analytics in higher education in Germany and the Netherlands. So thank you again, Hendrik, for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Isabel. Fantastic. Hi, everyone. Great that you make your time to join this. While doing the slides, I realized I'm getting older. It feels like a history lesson of things we have done in the last 10 years. And I will talk about how we came to a trusted learning analytics project, how we call the learning analytics approach we run mainly with researchers from the Netherlands and Germany. And so I will talk a bit about who we are, who is Trusted Learning Analytics, who works in there, what we do there, then the genesis of the program a bit that started with ethics, privacy, and how we developed that further was designed for technology enhanced learning, for Trusted Learning Analytics. And then a specific focus that we give, especially with brilliant co-researchers we have within our team, on psychomotor competence development with multimodal learning analytics, on cognitive competence support with learning analytics for self-regulation and other things. And then I finish basically with our current research endeavors, what is computational psychometrics, where we combine the field of learning analytics with the field of assessment and technology-based assessment. As Isabel said already, I'm actually affiliated to 3 institutes. It's a bit complex, but maybe keep in mind there's the Netherlands, there's the Leibniz Research Institute, there's the Open University in the Netherlands, that's the Leibniz Research Institute, and there's Studium Digitale or the University of Frankfurt, where we collaborate. And all these 3 teams jointly work on learning analytics and implementing in that. And we do this on various topics. And we have a website where we try to capture everything. So if you go to EduTec Science, you can basically find whatever matters to us, projects we are running, publications, teaching. And this is also something that's very important for us with the move I did 4 years ago from the Netherlands to Frankfurt. We also established an EduTec school, basically, where we give dedicated teaching to bachelor and master students, actually a specialization within a computer science department. So it's all pretty much computer science driven. What we do, where we specialize the students for learning analytics, and keep that in mind, because I will also show some brilliant outcomes of young students of us that nicely keep up what we teach and make their own thing out of it. So the purpose of the presentation is to give an overview what we do, how the program runs, and how we came from one piece to the other. First of all, who is TLA? This is the current group that we put together. You might recognize some persons there, like Daniele, Jan, Joanna, and so on, who are all postdocs within the program, and plenty of PhDs that contribute to the current research. And I will pick some of these studies we are running there and present what is the current work and current stage there. And for sure, we also have a lot of collaborators, and this is then especially Halska Jaroczka in the Netherlands and Lenka Drüsen, where we collaborate intensively together and want to combine the topic of eye tracking and instructional design with learning analytics. Then a bunch of psychometric researchers from the e-assessment community, because this is really something that we do since 2 years, strongly work together among the assessment community and the learning analytics community, because it's 2 communities that really live in parallel. They have different terminology for the same things to do, like stealth assessment is pretty much what we call learning analytics with process data, etc. And we try to figure out what are the synergies between these two fields and where we can bring that together. And then Maren, for sure, luckily the president of Solar is also involved in many projects we do. And we are glad about this, and a bunch of others from the Goethe University that help us to roll out also the things we do. So we have a Studium Digitale, a strong unit that is for rollout, and this is something really to keep in mind. So a lot of technical stuff, support stuff, video teams, etc., to make things happen. Because this is really one of the things you need to keep in mind for whatever we do. We have a scouting maturing service process. So we scout new technology, we explore what is the potential of it. We do that with the Goethe University and the DIP together. Then we mature this technology and see if this is scalable, if there is a momentum within the university to take this up. And then we produce these things into services that are rolled out, and that also might be given to certain other institutions. So we have a clear innovation task within the university, and we also measured on that. So everything we do, we not only do to satisfy research and cutting edge research, but rather also getting practical tools with the user groups out and change education as it happens at the university. And we have for this a process also that we just got funded from another project now, an incubator accelerator model, where we will have a lab where we can have more funds to really focus on this, and having then small learning analytics interventions that develop bigger and bigger from a certain way, and then we can accelerate it to the university and bring them forward. One example of this SMS process, of this scouting maturing service process, are chatbots, for instance, like Sebastian Molny, who is in the research team who drives the research on chatbots. And from his research also, where we just have accepted a new literature review on chatbots in education, we have then certain corporations and directly bring also the chatbot into the live system of the university, what again gives then Sebastian the opportunity to study and collect information and data about the evaluation of this chatbot and how to improve them. That's just one of the examples. Another example from the DIP side, so from the Leibniz Institute. So what is Leibniz Institute for all the international ones? The Leibniz Institute has also the task to do research on a certain topic and provide services to the society back. And there I'm together with Daniel Schiffner and Frank Goldhammer in the technology-based assessment group. And within this technology-based assessment group, our learning analytics team is, and then our IT team is. And we combine pedagogical psychology diagnostics with information technology. And just I brought you one example of things of outcomes that we did. It's in German, unfortunately, from the Frankfurter Allgemeine paper, where a system was developed that refugees can basically take, they come without any papers, any documents. And we have set up a psychometric system for them where they can claim certain job skills they have. They do an assessment on that. And based on this assessment, they receive then from the Bundesagentur für Arbeit, so from the official agency for work, employment, etc., a certificate with certain skills and can apply them for internships, further education within the German market, and have a first certificate for a start. So that's one of the projects, huge projects we did with the Pertelmann Stiftung, and that nicely shows that the research we do is built into instruments that should have an impact on society. So that's TLA. And now to talk a bit about ethics, privacy, and how we got to the term trusted learning analytics. It all started basically with the LACE project. That was a European project for those who are not so long. We started 2014 or something. And there we focused what learning analytics in Europe could be. It was really a community building support action for learning analytics. We focused on school, higher education, and commercial sector with learning analytics. And a lot of things have been discussing. There was the ethics things, and that was already in 2014, 2015. And we formulated then in the delicate paper you might know, and that received the best paper award at LAC, and very luckily as one of the more theoretical paper, in fact, but it shows the momentum, how urgent and important this topic was already 2016. And there we coined first time the term of trusted learning analytics, something to take people into account, get away from these observational things. And I'm really pleased that the LACE team also has a special interest group at Solar now, where if you're a researcher in Europe and you want to do things related to learning analytics in Europe, have a look at this new leading heads of the SIG LACE that push that boundaries forward and organize events and so on, and still have ethics and privacy as their topic. So this is where it emerged, and what we had there, the whole picture is basically get away from black boxes to white boxes. Go away from unknown algorithms, unknown data collections, automate decision making, that the data subjects have no access to raw data, no control who uses the data at the end, and try to make this an open box. Open algorithms, transparent indicators, no automate decision making, full access to data, knowing who accesses your data. So we were aiming for this, and especially at the moment, then when I moved from the Netherlands to Germany, as you can imagine, in Germany, privacy is written very in capital letters, so to say. So it's a big topic, and I was pretty sure if I want to have any impact with analytics in Germany, I need to take this directly from the very moment and basically taught ethics and privacy first to get things done. And that was 2016, and 2018 then we got another reinforcement of this with the new GDPR that most of you know this at this time, I guess, where the European citizens got these major 7 rights about their data in principle: right to be informed, right to access, right to ratification of data, right to erasure, or also known as the right to be forgotten. That is incorporated in that, and where we thought, oh, that's a big thing. We need to take care of that. And it was also kind of nice to see then to be in Sydney and see this confirmation of that urgency again from the sociological side. When Niels Selvin gave his presentation, his keynote, and basically raised again, learning analytics has a trust problem, and a growing number of people have some doubts about this. And why? Because it's politics. It can be high stakes assessment. Whatever is into these systems, it might result in a certain less supporting way, or could be used against you. And that showed again the urgency for that. So we have been thinking then, starting in Frankfurt, a new group, we need something like an infrastructure, a trusted learning analytics infrastructure, where we can take care of all these things. Luckily, we found George. George is a fantastic architect for information technologies, and he took up this topic in his PhD thesis, and basically designed a big data structure and a Kafka services and different things, and taking account these GDPR and trust things. And we have been inspired by things like Google already did, take your data out, delete the data. We thought something like this, having in the university, being very transparent, giving the students the opportunity to delete the data, ratification, put all these rights into a dashboard, and then we should be fine, and should be also good in Netherlands and Germany to go with learning analytics. And inspired by this successful Google initiative, we then designed the first system that we also presented in the Global Engineering Conference, and were awarded for about design principles. And George also implemented the infrastructure in that way, and we still use it. And he also made then a very extensive user interface. So where you had this consent giving, you got all this explanation, what's happening around it, what kind of technology is there. You get these techniques explained, then you can consent to various technologies as the law demands this. So like you give consent to the Moodle data, you give consent to any Serene app that we developed at that time, to the survey system, etc. And finally, you would have then all these rights integrated into a dashboard where you can put certain regulations at them. You can download the data, you can request to delete the data. And we have been working with this, and actually, this is one of the first lessons I want to share with you guys. You can do this. It's a lot of work. It's very costly, and the learners most of the time are totally overwhelmed by the potential choices and consequences, and they don't use these tools at the end. They really don't care, or they do funny things like they don't give consent to Moodle, but to other things, what you cannot well, without your LMS, you cannot do things. And I had students coming to me receiving the printed one. And because this was such a burden, they gave them consent to the learning management system to receive it. So at the end, it was a nice idea, but it's something that asks so much agency from the learners. And so much responsibility, and actually our students just want to have a nice study, go through it, get their credit points, but don't want to have something sophisticated like it is. So this is what we took from there, and basically stopped on this interface part, still using the infrastructure as it is to consume various information I will show in some minutes. And then luckily with Dragan together, we had this Schuyler project. It's a fantastic follow-up project on the LACE project that really go one step further, where LACE basically put the urgency and the attention to topics and try to make first reviews and lists and so on. We had the Schuyler project where we really could implement an evidence-based approach so that institutions can develop their own policies and especially take all their customers or the stakeholders into account, the student boards, etc., and have developed this tool and various policies. And this was very kind of eye-opener that we should not address these issues from a technical point where we always kind of behind the agenda with updates and so on, and rather having a proper policy and regulations and other things in place to make the students feel safe, can get their urgency, can have an ombudsman where they can go to, etc. So to organize it basically in a social way rather than a technical way. And this is also what we did. There's another also brilliant paper that Jishan had it where we point out again the challenges. I mean, it's 2020, the learning analytics 10 years old, and we still have the challenges as we indicated them in the LACE project, stakeholder engagement and buy-in. This is really what needs to happen. Weak pedagogical grounding of many implementations is still a fact, and also Jonna showed that nicely in your thesis. I will also give it a talk about this in a few minutes. Resource demands that are there, and ethics of privacy again. So this is where we, for the program, said we need to, whatever we do, we need to start small. Small projects, small solutions, solve problems of people, make things better, and then roll out. And this is what we do with the scouting, maturing, and services approach you have been referring to in the beginning. And so this is how it happens. We now have the first German code of conduct. We presented also at LAC 20. We released it. Yeah, this is there, something to discuss further. As you all know, Corona happened in between, so we have still plenty of these things printed in the office, laying around. Nobody was in the office thereafter. So I hope that in September we can continue with this. And the good thing is that we have quite some rollout projects, one very recently, where this plays a critical role, and where we will refer to this code of conduct to build up this social engineering of getting learning analytics and its innovations accepted and seeing the added value of it. And then some other highlights from the privacy and ethics part, having Onur Karademir, who just started a PhD with us, but was one of our students in the EduTec school before, and very engaged, has his own startup. And he was really, it's so fantastic to see how these young people really take up these lessons. And he invented a startup, the StudyCore app, which is basically a facts learning tool, like you can do with different innovative ways of dashboards for teachers and students, and delivering personalized feedback at scale. And he nicely also took all these GDPR lessons into account and basically proved that also with non-personalized data, you can have a learning analytics system that is close to the content and close to the learning, and is GDPR conformed because they install it on the university servers, and there's an anonymized registration for that. So that's a fantastic Beispiel exercise or whatever, I miss it, for what the students pick up from there. So have a look at StudyCore if you want to see this and get in contact with a young startup on that. Yeah, that was ethics, privacy, how we moved into this field, and how we thought trusted learning analytics important. Another thing that really bugs us was that many data we have been analyzing have been not so much related to the actual learning context. I mean, you know, this typical example, you have a lot of log data from a MS system in your system, and then you infer from that certain behaviors and things. But we closely realized that in order to get closer to the actual learning process and what happens, we need to design these learning analytics tools much more into the actual learning moments. And this is where the topic of designing for trusted learning analytics became very important. And here we cooperate also with Maren, with Halschka, but also with other people together. And Marcel Schmitz and Artesas are working there on the PhD topic. And this design topic became really very important because it's also it's kind of a hub for sending out to teachers come to us, design with us good learning content, consider already direct at the design stage the opportunities of learning analytics and the tools that we could provide to them, and then put it out. So this is the way how we innovate the university and get new technologies and innovations into the use of the university. And it all started with Marcel coming to us from Zoid University, where he said, I need to get Terminator that I can put into my lessons. I want to know if things happens already at the design stage, considering it and analyzing it then directly and have actions on this. So we made a first challenge paper on this, what is needed then for learning design. And we then again have a design cycle for education, basically, where we first put a kind of grid on all people that are involved into that, where they have certain corners if they redesign or design a course. So they specify their goals, their challenges, then they have a first idea, then they go to combining and analyzing, they have a creation, then they realize things, have a product, they evaluate the product, and its kind of cycle starts again with reflection. So that's something we put there. It's not super fantastic, super innovative as such, but it gives a map basically where also the employees can say, I'm currently in the combined phase and I'm facing this and that problem in phase 3 to 4. Can you help me? So it gives them a vocabulary to talk about things, where they are, what they need to do, and where synergies can be done. And on top of this, we have been further developing it. And we also provide then certain metaphors like knowledge acquisition, the typical facts delivery lecture that is still often given in many universities, where we suggest certain designs and what you could do from it, and try to work with templates as much as possible that teachers can adapt and make their own version out of it. And we also have a co-creation metaphor, for instance, if you have more collaboration between students and peers, etc. So trying to map this, and also trying to ship then the analytics indicators for certain activities with this design to them as a very natural thing, like, yeah, you design for education, but for sure you need to take care of your learning analytics indicator to see if the activities work or not. And for sure, you can also combine these different designs you have to a bigger curriculum or whatever. And this is all expressed in the paper down there. And by the way, every paper you see, everything is open access. You can also from our website, when they are there, you can get from there directly to all papers needed and have a look. This was also nice and good to put this map, and it really helped us. But Marcel still came back with something like, I still have a problem because they don't know how to do the design really well in one activity. So we kind of put the meta level on it, but we need to go into the activity level. And then Marcel came up with a board game, and we have been seeing now many games coming up at LACT in the last conf, LACT 20 different card sets that are there, but also shows us we need to transfer it more to the practitioners. We need to bring it more to the field. And while we have a board game, others have cards, and currently we work a lot with that. where we basically, you see here an example of designing for one of the projects and data supported activity, where you have all people around, you have your student representatives, you have the instructors and others, and they sit around and make one design basically and put it down and are aware of what's going to happen and why it's good. And this is also the moment to teach them. And this is the cards you have. So you have different lectures you can choose from, different challenges to address. You have many of these interaction cards like student to the system, student to student, student to teacher, etc. Then you have the technology enhanced learning cards that describe the technology you bring in there. And the what we want to know cards, where basically the learning analytics indicators are in there. And we put some cards with indicators we know about into it, but we also work on a version to have more database driven approach to this. And I brought you a very short video of 1 minute something where Marcel just introduced it. Actually, it's like 20 paper. We have 50 of these boxes waiting for you, and we would have actually spread them around at like 20, but you know, Corona still in the office, so it's all waiting to take up. So Marcel, it's your turn.
Welcome to TELCell, Technology Enhanced Learning Cell Channel. Today we present to you the Fellowship of the Learning Activity and Analytics, FOLA Square. It's a board game for learning design and learning analytics, and it comes in this great box. There's a great board for structure and several cards to play with. Role cards for every role around the table. Challenge cards for every challenge you face. Pedagogy cards in several sets available. Interaction cards for all the interaction you need on the board. You can use these interaction cards for every learning activity you design. Learning enhancing technology cards. Several examples to add to your interactions. You can even add your own learning enhancing technology if needed or if necessary. What do we want to know cards? And here also you have the opportunity to add predefined cards or add cards that you imagine yourself. We now have a special offer. We also have a digital version of the Fellowship of the Learning Activity and Analytics, FOLA Square, where you can do the same steps as you can do on the board game. As you can see, the same experience, and we have a limited edition Lock 20 version for you in store as well, with a great box to give it, with homage to all the locks before this one, brought to you by our dear sponsors, and it's
Yeah, and it's a fantastic box. So still 50 of them in my office, as I said, actually planned for a teacher workshop at Lock 20. Well, okay, so what is needed then? Okay, you have a method, you have a map, people can communicate where they are, they have activities they can design, we can consult them, and then they can do it on a board game, they can do it online. What we then need is Athesas basically, and Athesas works on a learning analytics indicator repository. And that also nicely refers back to the LACE project, where we had one initiative, the LACE Evidence Hub. There was something to basically investigate all the papers we have, cluster them to certain topics, and also say if there's evidence for success or not. So that was something we ran in LACE, and it worked quite fine. At the end, it struggled because it needs a lot of manpower to be kept up all the time. And Athesas took this initial idea actually from 2016 again and combines it then with the method from Marcel basically, and these preset cards will soon be informed by this database where we have certain receiving information. So you have certain objects that you have, and then you get certain activities in there and indicators and metrics that are used in the literature. And Athesis aims to use an artificial intelligence text mining approach to scan papers about evidences, indicators, and metrics, and builds up a repository basically of indicators and metrics that have been used for certain purposes. And this is what he's working on. And why we need that, because when we entered into Frankfurt, and when you think about service, you get a lot of people coming along saying, yeah, we would like to do learning analytics. And what are you doing? Okay, then they show us what they do. And we need then to pull out of the shelf basically what for a certain activity kind of indicators have been used and how that could look like. So we need to build up a repository on that and don't reinvent the wheel all the time. So this is what we do in Athesis PhD. And there's another example of this LA indicator repository for exploring basically, where you have these nice visualizations to go through that and look for potential learning analytics indicators you could use. And so this open layer tool is contact Athesis if you want to get more. He's happy to collaborate on it and also share the knowledge that is in there. So you basically tick certain objectives you want, like creating something, a creating activity, and then you see the indicators listed according to educational activities or learning activities that would be possible. And he also, what is interesting then is he has kind of analytics and visualizations about the genesis of indicators and how they are using and how they're declining and so on. It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure where to go with that, but you see definitely there are patterns for certain topics to be addressed. And definitely as longer learning analytics goes, it's most interesting becomes that what kind of indicators, metrics, and constructs we are busy with. So that's the design phase. And now I step basically from designing for trusted learning analytics into two strong focal programs of us, where we really focus on with a lot of people to make a difference there. And one is psychomotor competence support. And actually, a leading person like Jan Schneider and Daniela Dimitri might not like that I call it psychomotor competence support, but I think it is that. It's the multimodal learning analytics field, and thereafter the cognitive or metacognitive competence support model. So who we have in multimodal learning analytics, you see again, it's really Daniela and Jan who moved this field from the PhD forward, now became postdocs, supervised their own PhD. Joshua has joined us from the educational side. Maren is in there from the very beginning. And then a lot of PhDs that work on these topics and have different multimodal interventions. So once again, credits to Daniel and Jan, who did a fantastic job, both in their PhD and now how they push this topic forward, and also receiving grants to continue make this topic grow. And what is it all about? There's this streetlight effect you might have heard about. So basically, and this is what I'm referring to in the beginning. So we use log data in some LMS data, but this is actually not really learning data. It's not where the learning happens. And this is what this little picture should tell you. A guy that lost his keys in the park or whatever, and he's looking there where the light is. And this is also what we do with learning analytics a lot. And therefore, we tried to bring analytics closer to the learning, closer to the constructs, closer to the dispositions that we want to see. And multimodal learning analytics is one potential there, was having all these sensors around. And it gives you more light for that. And yeah, the whole thing was captured basically by Daniela's PhD with an initial paper from Signals to Knowledge that you can find at JCAL. Where we have this input space, the context and behavior that you see. So everything above the iceberg, the input space is something we can see. And then we have this observability line, and everything under is the hypothesis space where we infer certain things into. And this is what the multimodal tries to address. And yeah, we have then made a map, a tree basically of different behavioral and context information, where we could information about the learning get from motoric behavior, physiological behavior, etc. social information from the context, weather information could be there. So a lot of things that could be considered. And Daniela also made this wonderful graph where the iceberg becomes more of a research model for this whole program, where you also have then the behavior, basically the multimodal data where we capture then the people, then annotation of data for supervised machine learning approaches, predictions that are done, and then feedback to the learners, and where we compress that. So nicely framed, and the technology behind is pretty much a lot with the Kinect sensor, Kinect camera that we use. It feels like we have a platform where we do different things. Yeah, the Kinect already provides you with information about the human body, and that helps you for psychomotor competences, what is cycle saw, whatever movement you do, learning to ride the bike, etc., and doing the analytics on that. And yeah, and then this all started actually with Daniel, with Jan's PhD on the presentation trainer. Very often use example, and we still use it a lot, and especially in the new projects, we want to reinforce basically what have been done there. And I also brought a little presentation of this, so to get an idea what multimodal learning analytics from this presentation trainer could be, and show some other examples thereafter. So give the floor to Jan.
The history of the world has been shaped by memorable public speeches. And these days, public speaking is considered to be one of the fundamental 21st century skills for educated professionals. When speaking to the public, the power of your words rely on how you express them. There are plenty of courses and resources available which are designed to teach people how to speak in public. However, a large number of educated professionals regularly make the same mistakes over and over. Therefore, they fail time and time again to communicate their message effectively. With the presentation trainer, you can practice your presentations while receiving feedback about your posture, use of gestures, the volume of your voice, facial expressions, and use of pauses. After practicing, the presentation trainer will help you to reflect about your performance. You probably have something important to say, and you definitely want to communicate this effectively. Just imagine how great it would feel to step onto the stage, and from the moment that you say the first word to the moment that the presentation finishes, you have your audience totally captivated. So, give the presentation trainer a try and become the powerful communicator that you always wanted to be.
Yeah. Go away. And from there, as we said, it's a kind of platform. We had different projects where we have a Salsa Trainer, learning you the basic steps of Salsa. Another important project that Daniela pushed forward was then in the medical project to enhance the cardiopulmonary resuscitation training, where we again used the Kinect camera, had some other tools that Jan developed, like the Learning Hub, and compared our outcomes from the multimodal with standardized instruments like the Lerdal Simpad. So that's a puppet that is used in medicine, very costly. And we could actually prove that to a high accuracy, we can achieve similar results like this Lerdal medical puppet. And yeah, that's an example of this, Daniela giving the heart massage and getting the analytics and the activity there. And we recently also step into, and this might be the moment that we cannot call it psychomotor constructs anymore. We also step in the field of group collaboration and using audio signals. That's something what Summit does a lot, where we have automatic collaboration analytics for group speeches. So we try to get the audio signal and for different types of meetings, and then to measure actually, or to summarize how the meeting went. And then you see certain roles that are in there, and you see the speech, how often words are used, what words, who talked the most, etc., and try to build up patterns on these different meetings that we have there. And Summit is working then on network analysis of communications and try to digest the information to provide feedback on a lot of meetings that have been provided. And as I said, most recently, Jan also got a huge grant of 2 million together with many others in Germany to further invest into this in a multi-site project where they will go into running at different topics to advance that field. So that's a nice and very agile topic. I can just recommend to get in contact with Jan or Daniele to see how to advance this field. So then slowly getting to the end, cognitive competence support. There I just want to refer to Joanna Gibbet, you might also know from LAC or many other places, who did some fascinating work again on dashboards and why dashboards are not achieving their goals. So pitfalls of learning on the dashboards is one of her literature review papers. License to Evaluate, another one you might know. Where she basically showed that there's a lot of pedagogy missing within the dashboard design. It's very computer science driven, and that we needed design principles from education to actually evaluate them properly and have a meaningful intervention as well for learners. And one of her last papers you might have seen at LAC 21 now, where she presented the learning tracker and did the first study on what actually learners would choose on indicators if we would provide them with a flexible system, and if there's any relationship between the way learners formulate their learning goals and the indicators to choose from. Very pioneering work in this area, because so far the dashboards have been kind of preset by us most of the time. And she also found some really interesting behaviors then. So from 2 courses she had that she ran at TU Delft, you see that more than the half of the students actually choose less indicators than we provided to them. So they 25% only use 3 indicators, so they were picky. They're kind of not using everything of them. And what was also interesting to see, if you see then the different indicators we provided, that these behavioral indicators are permanently not that relevant for them. So they are not so much into self-regulation and how they do. They're really interested into the content indicators, and that raises a lot of questions. Are they interested in them because they are easier to understand? It's something they can deal with. So why is this the case? And it's really interesting work. And also Jana won a best paper award there at LAC 21 and for fantastic work in a thesis. And I can just warmly recommend you to have a look when you work on dashboards, to look at Joanna's work. And then finally, what kind of we are busy now with computational psychometrics, so combining learning analytics and the technology-based assessment into a new field, where we again have a lot of people contributing feedback and so on that we want to generate. And the main idea was also phrased, I don't know what luck was it again, where Miss Levy had the keynote and he presented a similar model like this, and he published it later about it. And when I wrote a proposal with Frank Goldhammer, who is from e-assessment, funny thing, Miss Levy published his paper, and we have now a reference also to him, basically, where we have he has a similar model like this. But the main idea is that you have this psychometric field, and a psychometric field comes from the top down, as you could say, because they have this evidence-centered design process. So they think about certain skills, interpretations, certain variables, certain constructs they want to measure, and what the behavior is that you want to see for this. And then they design it down and collect the data for this construct they want to measure. While a lot of things that we do in learning analytics comes from the bottom up, referring again to the whatever learning management system where we use the log data, and infer then from the log data certain constructs, provide feedback and give it back. And we were kind of interesting, okay, there's 2 communities working on slightly similar things, having different approaches, different terminology. So what can we gain out of it to combine this? How are the evidences or the indicators that we in learning analytics find comparable to what in the psychometric field is done with item response theory, measured instruments, and items that are subjectively filled in? And that's something that we are after right now. And where we got different projects, we first started with the DEFA project that is ongoing, where we want to see digital formative assessment unfolding its full potential by getting the best out of psychometrics and learning analytics. And we have some just other 2 projects just started, Alice and Affleck. The logos look similar because it's the same data set. It's in the school level, actually. So I'm not doing only higher education, it's in the school level, where we have for different disciplines certain expectations, what they should learn, also constructs to be learned and how to bring that in. And also the HiCoF project, where we again work together with psychometric and criterion-based constructs and want to combine basically formative assessment and summative assessment to the students to get them really in high informative competence-based feedback situation like Hattie is formulating it. So computational psychometrics, combination of formative and summative assessments like this blue and this red pillar. Blue is then the formative part, everything about what you learn on the way, and then the red pillar about summative feedback, getting feedback on the final assessment, what kind of competence you achieved, having actionable information and not just the final grade or something. So to really enable the students to take initiative. And this is where we hit into the field of competence development. We have different digital competences we define in the meantime. We apply them also in the university directly for the digital competence skills of teachers. We have then a competence model that roughly looks like this, quick and dirty, where you have certain lectures to give and certain objectives to aim, and then we mark what is the knowledge, how much do you need to apply it, and describe it like this, and then again try to see what the process information within the environment tells us. And here also the design phase kicks in again. So we sit then together, design these activities, and we design then very dedicated learning activities. That's just a few examples. Like we have a text box, and this text is there, and behind the text you have kind of areas that send information, how long they are seen, how long you can see them in the screen. And you can from there infer how the text was read, how long did they spend on it, if they check the relevant sections, etc. We also have a mind map where we basically collect all the process data of adding edges, creating a new edge, etc. Make a node. And for sure, all these traditional video analytics, etc., that we take and control and record in the learning environment and bring in. But we hope to be closer to what the learners actually really do with the learning content. And just taking this example of that text reading again, it's like an eye tracking without an eye tracker. And I think it's less accurate. That would be something to measure, but you have these different areas that send them this information in. And what we do then from here, we have certain constructs on the field of psychometrics. So this is about multiple document comprehension. So how learners can deal with different documents and how well they read. And we take them from evidence-centered design, their variables. And here you see an example of all the variables that we collect for sourcing, for instance. And then we observe the action that we have within the process data and a short description. And in that way, we try to map these both fields and bring it together and really looking to what we can gain from both and what we can do about this. And then for sure, we map this information, try to find correlations between subjective measures that we have and the process data. What would be fantastic to find that process data tells you the same like a subjective method of the students. So we would not need to ask them anymore. We have really this stealth assessment and could see certain patterns in there. And we bring this in combination with the model of Hattie to have high informative feedback about where I'm going, so the goals, how am I going, and where to go next. So the feed up, feedback, and feed forward message is something that we try to integrate there to make them aware and give actionable feedback to the students. What is very important currently in the Corona time too, because what happened, well, we delivered a lot of education online, but we did not deliver very well feedback to that because we were just overwhelmed, and you had again the teacher as the bottleneck in between. So that's something that really needed some attention. And here we built again on knowledge and achievements from the learning analytics community. Very proudly apply now on-task tool for Maldonado Pardo in Frankfurt, using this in various projects for formative feedback, where we use that. You might know about on-task and this fantastic work that is done in Down Under and many other places, where you basically have then these goal, task, and measures, certain sentences, clustering, and this both system collects in an email, and you get a certain personalized feedback message for different indicators to you. And this is what we explore currently, put into our SMS cycles. So scouting this for now, we'll see how mature it is. And if it runs, we will put it out as a service to the whole university. But until that, there's a lot of research to do. And currently we are measuring with the assessment people, basically the assessment. That's roughly something that Josh was working on now with our partners, where we designed then an experimental design for our students. So we roughly will have 600 students in there, and different formative feedback approaches we will have, like feedback as usual, non-repeat feedback, and then norm reference feedback, criterion-based feedback, and norm versus criterion, and creating combined approach for the formative feedback, and also summative, basically receiving back their not just pass-fail, grade pass-fail, but also then including this criterion-based and the competence modeling approach to have a rich experience. Also, if you finished in something and get information how to continue. And here I would close my talk. Sorry for taking maybe a bit longer. But I'm open for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hendrik, for this great presentation with tons of resources. Now, well, we have 5 minutes. So if anyone has a burning question, you can post it in the chat, because if not, we can then share it with Hendrik later. There was a little bit of debate around the chat about how to find what is the best way to take a look to all the research that you have referred to throughout the talk. So maybe if you want to share like a website or like.
Yeah, good one. I will put it on, I will do a blog entry and put all the references you want to have there next to it. So I could use then the recording, put it there, and also let you know that the references are there. Or I put the slides there directly and we do it like this.
Okay, great. That's great. Yeah, and just to clarify to the audience, we actually share the recording and the slides whenever we can in the Solar website, so you will find then further details there. So there is a question from Sergey. Let me allow you to reactivate your audio. So if you want to make it yourself.
Sure. I can start my video, but I guess Hendrik knows how I look.
I'll allow you. There
Okay.
you should.
Yes.
Sergey,
thank you.
Hi,
Hendrik.
long time no see.
Well, fantastic presentation, and yeah, definitely you and your colleagues have been quite busy. A lot of projects, a lot of interesting work. I would like to go a little bit back to one of your initial slides. It was a bit concerning that you have taken Google as a model for privacy design, given the criticism that Google receives from experts on privacy. But disregarding that, so I didn't quite understand what was your solution at the end, because yes, indeed, if you give so much power to the users regarding regulating their privacy, of course, it might feel overwhelming. This lesson was learned by you the hard way, and thank you for sharing this with the community. But what is the best practice now? So what should we do? So should we give them these rights? Should we open everything by default and then let them to turn it off? Should we just hide it somewhere in the interface and so on and so forth?
Yeah, Sergey. Yeah, it was just the functionality of that dashboard to take out. I was not telling that Google is doing a great job in privacy. It was just the functionality that inspired us in a way. It's a bit delicate, as I said in the paper. It's complicated. You first of all, you cannot set everything open. They need to set it open by law, right? So they have. This is the first thing we have, and thereafter. you are not allowed even to send an email to notify them about something if they don't approve you to this. So there's a lot of hen and egg problems that hinder us with the GDPR in a certain way. And one thing we really didn't underestimate is that they really make a choice. So they sit in front of that. I try to explain that with Moodle so that you get a very heterogeneous decision tree of what they allow and what not. And then it also is not working anymore. Because they really made up some thoughts about, okay, I take this, but this I don't want, and etc. It was, I don't know, I felt this is not right, and what to do. So sharing with the community what to do. I think we should not. Maybe we can do it easier technology and with low functionality that have low effort, but you need to capture it socially. You need to engineer a system in the university, basically, to have an ombudsman, to have the policy where you can refer to. So this is my solution to getting it done by people and persons you can refer to. Start small, be transparent about what you do. But this over-engineered interface, at least, was not really taking up.
Thank you, Hendrik, for sharing that. We have just 1 minute. I don't know if there is one last burning question, but still there Hendrik contact information. And since we're running out of time, maybe we will start our closing remarks. So first, a big, very thank you to our presenter today. So yeah, I'm just sharing some reactions there. So yeah, tons of thanks. And of course, also a big thank you for everyone joining today. Hopefully you enjoy this presentation and you will become inspired in order to continue pursuing endeavors in the field. And as we mentioned earlier, we will share the recordings and further details in the Solar website. There is a link posted in the chat. Anushka posted a link in the chat. So yeah, thank you everyone, and especially for Hendrik.
Hey, thank you guys for your time. Have a great summer.